The sun was merciless that afternoon, casting golden streaks across the quiet suburban street. The air smelled of freshly cut grass, and the occasional hum of a passing car barely disturbed the silence. But in front of a modest brick house, something stood out, a small, handmade lemonade stand. A bright yellow sign, carefully colored with crayons, read, "Lemonade, $1, help me fight cancer." Behind the stand stood a little boy no older than 8. His name was Noah Bennett, and despite the exhaustion in his small frame, he stood tall, determined. His blonde hair was hidden beneath a baseball cap, slightly oversized for his head. His blue eyes, usually full of life, carried a quiet heaviness that no child should bear. The truth was heartbreaking. Noah had been battling leukemia for over a year, and his family was drowning in medical bills. His mother, Rachel, had tried everything: insurance, fundraisers, even picking up extra shifts at the diner where she worked. But it wasn't enough. The treatments were expensive, and time wasn't on their side. So Noah, in the only way an 8-year-old knew how, decided to help. Selling lemonade wouldn't make a huge dent in the bills, but in Noah's mind, it was something. It was hope. People stopped occasionally, neighbors, kind strangers passing by. Some bought a cup, others simply dropped a few dollars into the small jar labeled Noah's Fund. A few had even teared up, offering words of encouragement before walking away, their hearts heavy. Still, the donations trickled in too slowly. The goal seemed impossible. And then fate intervened. That same day, J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States, happened to be in town for a speaking engagement. The Ohio native had always been vocal about supporting hard-working Americans, but nothing prepared him for what he was about to witness. Dressed in a simple button-down and jeans, J.D. had taken a detour from his official route, preferring to drive through the quieter neighborhoods rather than be escorted down busy streets. His security detail followed at a respectful distance. As his car rolled past the rows of houses, something caught his eye: a little boy standing alone at a lemonade stand. At first, it was just a passing sight, one of those small-town images that reminded him of home. But then, as he drove closer, he saw the sign, "Help me fight cancer." His heart clenched. Without hesitation, he signaled to his driver. "Pull over," he said. The car slowed to a stop a few houses away. His security team exchanged puzzled glances, but didn't question it. J.D. Vance wasn't a man who ignored his instincts. He stepped out of the car, adjusting his sleeves as he approached the stand. The moment Noah looked up and saw him, his eyes widened. His tiny hands gripped the edge of the lemonade stand as he gasped, his little mouth dropping open. You're him," Noah blurted out, eyes filled with astonishment. J.D. chuckled. "That depends." "Who do you think I am?" Noah blinked, processing. "You're the vice president," J.D. gave him a warm smile. "Guilty as charged." By now, Rachel, Noah's mother, had stepped outside, confusion and disbelief written all over her face. She wiped her hands on her apron, clearly caught off guard. It wasn't every day the Vice President of the United States showed up on your front lawn. J.D. glanced at the lemonade stand and then back at Noah. "So, tell me, young man, what's the best thing on the menu?" Noah's face lit up with pride. "Well, I only have one thing, but it's really good. My mom helped me make it." J.D. reached into his pocket and pulled out a $20 bill, placing it gently in the jar. "Then I'll take 1 cup, please." Noah eagerly poured the lemonade into a paper cup and handed it over with both hands. J.D. took a sip, nodding in approval. "You weren't kidding. This is top-quality lemonade," Noah beamed. "Thank you, sir." But J.D. wasn't done. He could see the worry in Rachel's eyes, the silent plea of a mother doing everything she could to save her son. He turned to her and extended a hand. "Ma'am, I'm J.D. Vance." Rachel shook it hesitantly, still stunned. I know, what are you doing here?" J.D. gestured toward Noah. "I saw his sign, and I don't ignore signs like that." At that moment, neighbors started peeking through windows, stepping onto porches, whispering among themselves. A few cars slowed down as people tried to confirm what they were seeing. JD crouched down to Noah's level. "I have to say, kid, you're pretty brave. Selling lemonade to help with your own medical bills? That's no small thing." Noah shrugged, suddenly shy. "I just want to help my mom." JD felt a lump form in his throat. He glanced at Rachel, who looked away, her eyes glistening. Then he did something no one expected. He turned to the crowd forming nearby and, in a strong, clear voice, said, "This little boy is showing more heart and courage than most adults I've met, and I think we should do something about it." Noah's eyes widened. Rachel held her breath. J.D. Vance wasn't just buying a cup of lemonade. He was about to change everything. The summer air was thick with anticipation as the small crowd around Noah's lemonade stand grew larger. Some had pulled out their phones, recording what they knew would be a moment to remember. J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, stood in front of an 8-year-old boy's makeshift stand, not as a politician, but as a man moved by something bigger than himself. Noah clutched the edge of his table, eyes bouncing between J.D. and his mother. He still couldn't believe what was happening. One second, he was trying to sell lemonade to help his mom pay for his chemotherapy, and the next, the second most powerful man in the country was standing right in front of him. J.D. turned toward the growing audience, his voice steady but full of emotion. "This little boy isn't asking for handouts. He's not complaining. He's fighting, the only way he knows how. And I think we should stand with him." The murmurs in the crowd shifted. Some people glanced at each other, guilty that they had walked by earlier without stopping. Others reached into their pockets, pulling out whatever cash they had. J.D. looked back at Noah. "How much do you need, buddy?" Noah hesitated, eyes darting toward his mom. Rachel bit her lip. She wasn't sure if she should say the real number. It felt too big. Finally, she whispered, "His treatments cost over $50,000 a year, sir." A few gasps rippled through the crowd. J.D. didn't even flinch. He simply nodded, then pulled out his phone. "All right," he said. "Then let's make this happen." Rachel's breath hitched. "Wait, what do you mean?" J.D. turned to his security detail, who had been standing quietly in the background. "Get me a direct donation link, right now." One of the agents immediately started making calls. Meanwhile, J.D. raised his voice again, addressing the entire street. "Noah is doing his part. It's time for us to do ours. I'm personally donating $10,000 to his medical fund." A stunned silence followed his words. Noah's mouth fell open. Rachel grabbed the back of her chair, suddenly lightheaded. The crowd erupted into whispers, then cheers. But J.D. wasn't finished. He turned toward the cameras now recording the moment and spoke directly to them. "And if you're watching this, whether you're here in this town or across the country, you can help too." He pointed at Noah. "Every dollar, every small act of kindness makes a difference." Rachel was openly crying now, one hand covering her mouth. The security team handed J.D. a phone, confirming the donation link was live. Without missing a beat, J.D. Vance pulled up his social media and posted it himself. Within minutes, the donations started pouring in. First, it was $20, then $50, then $500. People from all over the country were watching live, moved by the courage of a little boy and the unexpected kindness of a leader they never thought they'd see in this moment. Rachel's phone vibrated with each incoming donation. She stared at the numbers climbing higher and higher. $15,000, $25,000, $40,000. Noah, still clutching his lemonade pitcher, looked up at J.D. with tear-filled eyes. Are we really gonna make it?" J.D. knelt in front of him, resting a steady hand on the boy's shoulder. "You already have, kid." Rachel let out a broken laugh, overwhelmed with gratitude. "Mr. Vance, I don't even know what to say." J.D. smiled warmly. "You don't have to say anything. This isn't about me. It's about your son, about this whole town, about what we can do when we stop looking away." A deep hush fell over the crowd. For the first time in a long time, Rachel felt something she thought she had lost. hope. And then something unbelievable happened. One of JD's aides rushed forward, nearly out of breath, holding up his phone. "Sir, you need to see this." JD took the phone, his eyes widening as he read the screen. Noah's fundraiser had just hit $100,000. The entire crowd exploded into cheers. Rachel collapsed into a sob, clutching her son. Noah let out a small, stunned laugh, still trying to process what was happening. JD, standing tall, couldn't help but feel a lump in his throat. A little boy had set up a lemonade stand to fight for his life. And now, because of the kindness of strangers and the power of one moment, he had a chance. The energy in the air was electric. People clapped, cheered, and wiped away tears as the reality of the moment sank in. Noah's battle wasn't over, but he no longer had to fight it alone. Rachel fell to her knees, pulling Noah into her arms. "Baby, we did it," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You're gonna get your treatment." JD Vance stood beside them, watching as the moment unfolded. He had seen a lot in his political career, but this was something different. This wasn't about policies or power. It was about people. Noah, still clutching the now half-empty lemonade pitcher, looked up at JD with tear-filled eyes. "Does this mean I don't have to sell lemonade anymore?" JD chuckled, crouching down to meet him at eye level. "It means you don't have to, but something tells me you're the kind of kid who's going to find another way to help people." Noah grinned, the weight that had been pressing on his small shoulders finally lifting. The crowd around them had grown even larger. News crews had shown up, capturing the moment as it unfolded. People from nearby businesses came outside, some holding cash, others just wanting to be part of something bigger than themselves. And then, just when Rachel thought she couldn't cry any more tears, something else happened. A woman in a business suit stepped forward, her phone still in her hand. "Mr. Vance," she said, her voice shaking. I just got off the phone with my boss. He's the CEO of a private medical foundation, and they want to cover the rest of Noah's medical expenses. All of them." Rachel's breath caught. "What?" The woman nodded, her own eyes brimming with emotion. "They were watching the live stream. They saw everything, and they want to make sure your son gets the best treatment possible, no matter what it costs." Rachel collapsed into sobs. The crowd erupted into applause once again, the moment turning into something even bigger than anyone could have imagined. Noah, still processing it all, turned to JD, his small hand reaching for the vice president's sleeve. "Mr. Vance?" JD looked down. "Yeah, buddy?" Noah took a deep breath. "Does this mean I get to grow up now?" The words hit JD like a punch to the chest. He swallowed hard, then placed a firm but gentle hand on Noah's shoulder. "Yeah, kid," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "It does." The moment wasn't just about one boy anymore. It was about all the kids like him, the ones fighting battles they never should have to fight, the ones who just needed someone to notice. And today, because of a lemonade stand and the kindness of strangers, the whole world had noticed. As JD Vance walked away from that lemonade stand, he knew one thing for sure. Noah's story wouldn't just change his own life, it would change the world. Thank you for watching this heartwarming story. It's moments like these that remind us of the power of kindness, community, and the difference one small act of generosity can make. JD Vance's unexpected gesture not only changed the course of a young boy's day, but also brought hope to a neighborhood that needed it. Remember, sometimes the most unexpected people can make the biggest impact, and every act of compassion can create a ripple effect that changes lives. If this story inspired you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to stay connected with more incredible stories like this. And, as always, feel free to leave your thoughts and comments below. We love hearing from you. Stay kind, stay hopeful, and never underestimate the power of one small gesture. See you in the next video.